The Georgia Bulldogs and UMass Minutemen get set to do battle in Athens. We are here previewing, predicting, and breaking down this game between UGA and UMass. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Phillips. He's Dave Shumate. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, SECUnfiltered.com. This segment brought to you by our friends over at MyBookie. Go to MyBookie.ag. Use promo code SECU at sign up to receive a special welcome offer on your first deposit. That's MyBookie.ag. Promo code SECU to get your special welcome offer today. A week after Georgia took down Tennessee in a thrilling showdown at Sanford Stadium, the Dawgs welcome UMass to town in a non-conference battle. We are here previewing, predicting, and breaking down this game. I am Chris Phillips, and helping me do so, my good friend Dave Shumate joins me once again. Dave, what's going on, my friend? Appreciate you taking the time and excited to break down this matchup with you.
Yeah, I mean, Shane Montgomery, I think, is the interim head coach here for the old Minutemen. Welcome to your first head coach. Again, I haven't looked at his resume. He may have been a head coach somewhere else before, but welcome to your first game as the head coach in Chestnut Hill, baby. Or, sorry, in Amherst. Should say Chestnut Hill. That's Boston College. Amherst, Massachusetts. Head Minuteman, you're going to Sanford Stadium to open it up. I mean, I don't think they knew they didn't have much of a chance anyways. But I guess if there was a spot to get Georgia, it'd be this one, right after the big Tennessee game. I mean, it's like you said, Chris, what are you really going to say much about this matchup? Now, I will say it'll be interesting to see how Georgia handles rotations. Remember, they'll be on a shorter day this week because they play Georgia Tech on Friday. So they have a shorter week to get ready for clean, old-fashioned hate, how they handle that stuff. So that'll be interesting. Maybe it doesn't matter. It's just a day, but it's just something to think about when engaging in the dates of this matchup.
Yeah, to your point, Dave, when you look at UMass, and again with an interim head coach now, but this is the third time this season now that UMass will take on an SEC foe. They've been kind of that.
They have a harder conference schedule than Texas.
One could argue. Yeah, Georgia, Mizzou,
and the other one.
Mizzou and Mississippi State. So I was about to say the previous two matchups, UMass actually gave Mississippi State some fits. Coleman Hutzler in that defense, who they're not all that fond of in Starkville right now. But either way, lost 45-20. They did put up some points on an SEC defense. But before that, Dave, you remember that was the game that was up there in UMass. Mizzou made that road trip. They lost that game by a final score of 45-3. So UMass sitting at 2-8 overall. It's been a bit of a struggle. Again, Dave, this game a 12:45 p.m. Eastern time kickoff this weekend. It's on the SEC network there in Athens, Georgia at Sanford Stadium. Georgia, Dave, is a cool 42-point favorite in this football game. The over-under is set at 55.5. Georgia leads the all-time series 1-0. The only meeting, 2018. Georgia won that game, Dave, by a final score of 66-27. So, an uncompetitive showdown. As we dive into the matchup, Dave, like you mentioned, we're going to spare you all the dramatics here. Georgia's going to win this football game. Georgia's going to win by a wide margin. But as we look at this, Dave, I wonder, what does Carson Beck do for an encore, obviously? And again, how much conclusions are you going to draw, from a performance against UMass? But momentum's a real thing, right? He played his best football game against Tennessee, of course, what we saw from him. I thought the Georgia offense, even though there's some things still left to be desired, Dave, I think that, can Georgia's wide receivers make some more big plays? I feel like at times he's just not getting a ton of help. Even with that, Carson Beck, his performance, and not just Beck, the entire quarterback position, Dave, this is probably going to be a game you see a couple of different faces back there. I think Carson Beck obviously getting the start, should put up some big numbers. Maybe this is a Gunnar Stockton game. We haven't seen him in quite a while. Maybe coming in the second half. Dare they play a Jaden Rashada at some point, right? So quarterback should have a big day on Saturday. But for Carson Beck, man, I think it's just continuing to, whether you play 3 or 4 series or a half or 3 full quarters, Dave, just continuing to build that momentum off what you did against Tennessee and take that into the rivalry weekend and beyond.
Yeah, I mean, it's a game you're going to try to get your young depth in because it's a longer season, as we've talked about all year. You're going to maybe need some of these guys to step up. You have to get it on film in certain looks you want to know if you can go out there and throw that guy out there and trust him in a bigger situation. So I think it's probably that. Again, probably maybe move KJ Bolden around in certain situations where someone went down. No, he's sliding in there. Whatnot, like some people do with their safeties and stars and stuff like that. That would be something. Ja'Cory Thomas, I'm sure he's going to get a lot of run this week. And like you said, the backup quarterbacks, Jaden Rashada, Gunnar Stockton, will be interesting. I think Carson Beck will go to the NFL draft, but I have heard from people over there thought he may come back with a big number depending. And again, it all depends how the season finishes. So I think Georgia's quarterback situation, I think, is a little, but I don't know, is it up in the air is the right term, Chris? Maybe it's a little over exaggerated, but it's not fully, it's TBD, I think, heading into 25. So this will, at least seeing Stockton, seeing Rashada will at least give you some kind of eye test on what to expect for next year.
Dave, I mentioned, I think that is a good point, too. That's going to be a fun talking point for us as we get into the offseason or, get after the season, if you will, what Georgia's future plans are there. But, Dave, you mentioned it, too. There's going to be a lot of opportunity here. This is an empty the bench game. I mean, dare I call it a name your score game. I mean, again, we mentioned what UMass has done, and it's 2 previous matchups against SEC competition. Some think of Mississippi State as the worst team in the SEC, and they beat them by 25 points, right? Score 45 on them. So I think Georgia, whatever they want to do, whatever Dave Kirby wants to do. And Dave, I'm curious from your perspective. I want to hear from you because you've been in the building. You've been, you worked in college football. What's the messaging this week from Kirby and his staff about keeping a team locked in? Because you're playing for so much more. You're coming off a real emotional win against a rival at home. You've got Georgia Tech looming, and I know that rivalry's been it's been one-sided, but still, Tech's a solid team this year. Clean old-fashioned hate. Black Friday. Are they going to wear black jerseys? My point, Dave, fans are looking ahead. How does Kirby Smart and the staff make sure his guys don't look ahead this weekend?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, CB. They probably are, and so is the staff. And I would not be shocked this week if they worked on some Georgia Tech stuff. Like now, do the players know that sometimes? No, because they're running play. I mean, just as well as I do, CP. The players aren't as obviously locked in as the staff, except your rare elite guys that are like, I've seen this on film before. But most of these guys probably haven't peeked ahead to Georgia Tech yet. Maybe a little, most of the players. But Georgia, for sure, their staff on offensive and defense, and special teams has shown looks Georgia Tech could have shown. Again, whether the players know that's Georgia Tech or UMass, I don't know. But Georgia's staff is definitely looking ahead. I'm sure they worked a lot. Now, was it with the triple option with Paul Johnson? Because when I was at Georgia and when Kirby was there, once a week in spring ball, we would always work on triple option because you played it every year. But again, as you know, Chris, back then, no one else really ran. That was the only team on the schedule you'd see, just so the kids could get some kind of refresher of like, I do remember this in the spring. So you're not just starting on Monday cold turkey and it's like, oh God, dude, if we could give up some big plays because our guys they ain't seen this since high school, like playing triple option teams. So it's not that extreme, but I do think Buster Faulkner, the OC at Georgia Tech's, probably going to try to really get into his bag in that game because he's always been kind of the rumored guy when Bobo kind of steps away. Maybe he does a Will Muschamp thing at the end of the year. Buster Faulkner's been rumored to be the next guy in Athens as the OC because Todd Monken's recommendation. He was at Georgia as an analyst there for those 2 years of Monken. It could be an interview a little bit. I don't think he's getting the job if he puts up 30-plus points off this. I'm not saying that. It's just kind of an interesting story dynamic. And we're not previewing Georgia Tech, Georgia, but you asked me this week what it would probably be like. I don't want to lie and say they're definitely looking at Georgia Tech this week. I mean, again, now I don't think Kirby wants out there and have a bunch of 15 penalties out there like against UMass. Like, guys, come on, we're better. Let's roll the balls out. But let's make this a clean game. We're not going to show a lot, but let's don't go collect a lot of penalties, get any delay games. Let's get the play in. Let's go operate. This week's probably they've worked on themselves in Georgia Tech, if I'm being honest.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, Dave. I mean, let's just face it. This is a game where, again, Georgia can roll the balls out there and get the win. Yeah. Dave, I want to see if they continue to go to Oscar Delp, Benjamin Jurasic, get the tight ends involved. We saw a lot of them last weekend against Tennessee. Running back rotation, Nate Frazier continuing to come into his own and be that RB1. I think Georgia desperately needs. Obviously had the fumble problems against Ole Miss, and you've talked about this behind closed doors. Obviously at practice, he struggled to hold on the football. Was much better against Tennessee with that. Defensively, they should dominate. I mean, again, UMass is not an offensive juggernaut by any means, and I don't think they're going to present a whole lot of problems. Hairston, their quarterback, is the guy to keep an eye on. But anything else, Dave, you're looking for from Georgia specifically? I mean, again, I mentioned a couple guys. Again, to your point, I think what you're preaching to your guys this week is all, hey, like let's build a lead. This is a game. This is a feel-good game. Everybody can play. Everybody can feel good about themselves. We can continue to build depth. Give everybody an opportunity to shine in this one.
Yeah. I mean, again, if you're not going to tell your players, let's get out of here with no injuries, but you're definitely in staff when you're meeting with the offense one-on-one, meeting with the defensive coaches. if you're Kirby Smart, you're like, hey guys, I mean, we're already banged up a little bit as it is. Let's remember this. Let's kind of let's put in a base game plan. And I guarantee you, Kirby Smart would be like, I'll give up another touchdown or two if we got to play some backups reserves longer. Like, I could care less. No, I mean, I know he's not the fondest of the committee right now, but again, I think the committee's not going to go penalize Georgia here off like a beauty pageant against UMass, unless this game's like in the fourth quarter or something. But I don't think they're going to penalize them for winning 49-7 or 42-7.
Right. So, Dave, on that note, let's go ahead and lock it in, get our predictions out there. I'll let you start. Georgia, UMass, Dawgs are 42-point favorites. How do you see this one playing out?
I'm going to go something like 52-3. It's just a random number, but when the number's that high, a lot of uncertainty with UMass. Georgia was kind of their rotation. Again, they're looking at Georgia Tech this week. They still obviously out-talent UMass across the board. Tough spot to be in as a UMass staff, UMass team over there. Not a great year. Your coach just got fired. I mean, you're probably going to be more in awe about walking into Sanford Stadium like it's Disney, like a kid's first time in Disney World, than you are really going to not be locked in on the game. But it's going to be an awe for you. Morning game. You know, Georgia scheduled it this early to get in and out, get a couple hours extra before. Remember that clean old-fashioned hate game against Georgia it's Friday, so it's a day earlier than it's normally been. But I think Georgia gets out of here with a pretty easy win. Name your score game.
I agree with you, Dave. I think it's a name your score game as well. The score I will name, I'll go 56-6. Georgia beats UMass. But again, this is one I wouldn't bet it because I could very well see Georgia winning at something like 42-6, and they obviously don't cover in that scenario. So I'd stay away from it from a betting perspective. I think the over could play, though. I think Georgia could drop 50 by themselves. I don't know, though. It's probably a no-bet game for me, but I'll go Georgia 56, UMass 6. Like you said, I think that this is whatever Georgia wants to do, whatever they want the score to be, that's what it will be. So, guys, do you agree with us? Do you disagree? How do you see this one playing out when Georgia and UMass do battle at Sanford Stadium? Guys, that's going to do all for us. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, turn notifications. Check us out via podcast where you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. For Dave Shumate, I'm Chris Phillips. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we will catch you on the other side.